I started to master the art of seduction. I studied different seductress, but my first teacher in seduction was my aunt. My aunt, Miriam, was a master seductress. She used to have men like constantly vying for her attention. If you've seen the movie Memoirs of a Geisha, the part where she was in training and she had to make the man like fall off his bike. So my aunt taught me how to do this young. My aunt had this ability to stop a man in his tracks. Men would walk into walls. Men would crash. Like all kinds of things would happen when it came to her ability with men. And so she would teach me all kinds of different things. So as I was doing my dating experiment, I started to read about the art of seduction. And what I've noticed is that there was a lot of material that was aimed at men, like teaching men how to seduce. And then the books that were for women were just teaching women how to use their bodies in order to seduce. So I was like, I wasn't really down with the part about having sex with men because I knew that I was getting more from men when I wasn't having sex with them. And this is another key aspect, ladies, that I really want you to write down. The longer it takes for you to have sex with a man, and the longer it takes for you to have that man work to earn you, the deeper his love becomes for you long term. Because I was in it for the long game. I wanted a man that was not just going to be excited for me for a month or 2 or 3. I wanted a man that was going to be excited for me 5, 10, 15, 20 years for a lifetime. So I was in it for the long game. So when I was dating anybody, I was like, how can I trigger his vasopressin? How can I trigger his bonding for me so deep that he would be into me for years? How can I trigger a man to want to marry me as fast as possible? I didn't get just one marriage proposal. I got 7. I was proposed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, ladies. And what I'm teaching you right now, that will work for you too. Everything that I'm teaching you will work for you too. So understanding that, I increased my feminine energy. I understood the way men thought. And I had all these men that proposed to me, but here was the mistake that I made. Promise you, this is going to save you a lifetime. Hopefully it will save you from being in an abusive, narcissistic relationship like I was in. So here I was, flying high. I had all these very successful men who were vying for my attention, willing to do whatever it took in order to have me. And the nice guys, I wasn't attracted to them. I thought the nice guys was boring, embarrassingly so. I couldn't see the nice guys. If he wasn't my type, I wasn't going to go out on a date with him. If we didn't have chemistry, I wasn't going to go out on a date with him. So I ended up going to a party and I met this man, and immediately, the moment we met, I felt like my body was no longer in control of myself. Like when I talk about chemistry, the chemistry was insane. It was almost like I knew him in another life. It was like that. And it was an instant attraction. However, from the beginning, there were red flags. And the first date we went on, we went to a golf course and we played golf. I asked him all the questions like, are you single? Do you have kids? Blah, blah, blah. He said he was single. He said he didn't have kids. There was all kinds of things. But there was something about him that was giving red flags. It didn't matter because the chemistry was insane. I'm telling y'all, it was crazy. Long story short, I found out after we were dating about 2 or 3 months that he was married. But he was married getting a divorce. He was married getting a divorce from the wife whom he said got pregnant by another man. Follow me for a second, ladies. So here I am because I have been divorced. I'm empathetic because I know I went through a divorce. We were separated. His poor bleeding heart. His wife then got pregnant by somebody else, and now he's living in a different place and he's getting a divorce and everything else. Ma'ams, no ma'am. Separated is still married. It's an absolute no ma'am. As a matter of fact, if he is less than 2-3 years from a divorce, he's still a no ma'am. That man ended up breaking my heart probably more than any man had ever broke my heart. I found out on New Year's Day that not only was that his baby, he was still with his wife. He was still lying. And then it turned into now I'm here dealing with a married man because I'm in this addictive, painful relationship that my heart is attached to. So finally, I was able to get out of that relationship. However, what goes around comes around, because then with all this feminine energy. I'm keeping it real because I believe the truth shall set you free once you know it. So then with all this feminine energy, because I know how to attract a man. So I knew how to attract a man. Selecting a man was a completely different ballgame. So because the way you start is the way you finish, and what goes around comes around, I ended up meeting my knight in shining armor. Y'all are so funny. Love Bug is amazing. So I ended up meeting my knight in shining armor, and he came on his little horse, and he was willing to give me the world. He was like, you never have to work again. He said all the right things. We ended up getting together. We moved very quickly. He ended up proposing to me in like 30 days. I think it was like 30 or 60 days. And then we ended up getting married in like less than 6 months. And then bam, found out after I married him, his ass was already married. So I had unknowingly married a married man who had a wife in another state. And I went through almost a year of emotional, mental, and physical abuse. Yes, ma'am. Let that sizzle in your soul for a second. So then I went through a year because I stopped helping women. I stopped doing my YouTube channel. I stopped doing everything. And I went reclusive for probably a good, maybe like 2 to 3 years. And this is what I discovered. My biggest mistake was, my missing element was 2 things. The first thing is I missed the element that it doesn't matter what it is that you know consciously. It's what it is that you know subconsciously that directs your behavior automatically. So if you don't retrain your subconscious mind, it doesn't matter how much you know whatever is right or wrong, you're going to go in the direction that your subconscious mind says is normal. So if you watch your mom being abused, if you watch toxic relationship when you was growing up, if your father abandoned you, if you have abandonment issues, if you have I don't feel good enough because your mom was overcritical, then you're going to subconsciously gravitate towards that every single time until you've healed, period, point blank. Okay. You can rationalize it all day long. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. The second thing that I learned is that if you start dating, if you just try to skip and go to the increase your feminine energy, tapping into the law of attraction, let me go to a matchmaker and find love and do all this other stuff without first healing your love blocks, ma'am, no ma'am. Because here's what's happening if you don't heal your love blocks properly first. And now I have been through counseling. I have been in therapy. I have been through so many different spiritual retreats, ma'am. I've been through all of that stuff and still I had not healed. I mean, really healed to the point where if I thought about the moments when I was a child listening to my mother get a spanking behind the closed doors of my parents' bedroom, that I didn't freeze up and start crying. To the point where if I heard gunshots, because I was shot 5 times in a drive-by shooting before and just catching stray bullets, that every time I heard gunshots that I would freeze up and start crying. Like that part, I wasn't healed. So that means that if I thought about my traumas, I could be triggered. People could say things to me or treat me a certain way and I would be triggered, which means that I was not healed, which means that I was attracting and selecting relationships from my point of trauma, from my point of pain, from my point of not feeling good enough, from my point of expecting that love hurt. Men will hurt you because I grew up watching Love Hurts. I grew up watching my mother be abused. In my subconscious mind, that was normal, even if it caused me pain. So then I had to go back and do a U-Haul. I had to go back and I had to figure out the formula for being able to heal, because what I found is that unfortunately, our society lacks the proper tools overall to be able to help people to truly heal on a subconscious, a spiritual, a mental, and a physical level. We lack the tools. So I had to figure it out because, again, I didn't want my daughter to go through the same pain. I refused to have her go through the same pain. I was not going to have that happen. And throughout the process of healing myself, I was able to put together a formula that not only allowed me to be able to permanently heal, but to be able to help other people to be able to heal.